When I retired, I was ready to go. I did my last shift, accepted my plaque of service from my chief, made a very brief and useless statement, shook hands, and walked out the door. I felt free. For the first time in a long time, it felt like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. All of the pressure, pain, and fear were gone. I was ready for life after policing. I remember how much fun I had at my retirement party. Many of the younger officers I had the pleasure of mentoring showed up, and we drank and laughed and talked about the old times. Then it was over. That was fine. I had a class to teach the next week. The next several months were busy with travel and class. Taking my experience on the road was fun and distracting, but I started to notice that a few months after I was gone, I was starting to miss it. I was starting to miss the coffee in the morning, the jokes with my colleagues, the cases, the work. I told myself I was done with all of that. It was fine. And it was, for a while. My consulting work, COVID, and COVID recovery kept me busy, bored, and busy again in that order. Then one day I saw an announcement from the department, a promotion. There was nothing special in the promotion, and the officer getting promoted wasn't someone I was especially close with, but just realizing that I was no longer in the loop, that I wasn't part of the department anymore, well, it hurt. While teaching in Michigan, I asked my good friend George Sippert about retirement. George, are there any retirement groups for law enforcement? Organizations that help officers make the transition? We have retired officers' dinners about 4 times a year, and the department makes sure and invites all of the retirees to any awards ceremonies, parties, and special events, he said. We don't do any of that, I said. George could tell I was a little down. He paused and followed up with a very insightful question. Steve, do you feel comfortable going back to the department, just stopping in and saying hi? Absolutely not, I responded. Sounds like that's part of the problem. It's time to start telling our own stories. I'm Steve Kellums, and welcome to Blue Canary. When an officer retires, whether it's after 20, 25, or 30 years, there's often a handshake, a plaque, maybe a party. Then the uniform goes in the closet, and that's it. After decades of service, after countless nights on patrol, after seeing humanity at its worst and sometimes at its best, suddenly, you're just done. There's no transition program, no debrief, no structured counseling, no real roadmap for what comes next. Contrast that with the military. Service members who retire or separate are connected with the VA, with veteran service organizations, with peer support programs. They're eligible for medical and mental health services for the long term. Whether or not the system is perfect, there is a system. For cops, not so much. When it comes to support for retired officers, it's really a mixed bag. Some departments are very supportive of their retirees. They provide services such as access to the department gym, counselors, and peer support. They have frequent get-togethers such as lunches and dinners for retirees organized by the department. When the department has special events such as open houses, citizens academies, and award banquets, retirees are often recognized and encouraged to take part. Other agencies don't do anything formal, but have a few outgoing officers or retirees that make sure that people are not forgotten. They will organize the retiree coffee get-togethers or the retiree lunches. This is better than nothing. But without department support, it's easy for officers to get lost in the shuffle and not even realize that an event is taking place. The problem with this approach is that people will get unknowingly ostracized, and a retiree already feeling kicked to the curb by their agency might take it very hard when they're not invited to the gathering. And then there are those agencies that do absolutely nothing. 20 years of service, great. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. This has been an issue that has been weighing on my mind for a while. What kind of support do retirees from law enforcement get when they retire? Now, you might be thinking, what kind of support could they possibly need? After all, they won. They finished a 20-plus year career, took their pension, and left. It's not the department's responsibility in any way to support them. Well, you're kind of right. First of all, there is no requirement for the department to support people who are not employees outside of any pension requirements. In other words, if the department has a pension program, then they have to keep paying you. But that's it. And no, the Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act does not require your department to provide firearms qualifications to retired officers. But just because it's not legally required doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do. Just take a look at mental health and PTSD issues. The average U.S. citizen will experience 1 to 2 traumatic events in their lifetime. Many never experience trauma firsthand. Studies show that the average police officer will experience approximately 188 traumatic experiences in a 20-year career. Rates of post-traumatic stress disorder in the general population range between 6 and 8%. Rates of PTSD among police officers after a 20-year career is 15 to 19%. That's right, almost 1 in 5 retired officers will have some form of PTSD. Departments need to do a better job looking after their retired officers. These men and women have given the agencies over 2 decades of their life, and they have paid the price for it in so many ways. Many continue to pay that price long after they're gone, yet police departments give them no more thought than the morning trash. It's sad.
The Legal Liability Risk Management Institute is the nation's largest provider of liability and risk management services in the United States. Our goal is to help reduce liability, reduce lawsuits, and enhance officer performance. Regardless of the size of your agency, we have a risk management solution. You may contact us at www.llrmi.com or call 317-386-8325.
So if our own departments aren't going to do anything to support us after we leave, surely there are national organizations that will step in and fill that role. Sure, at least on paper. Good luck getting one of them to help. A quick search through your favorite web browser will give you a few options for law enforcement help after retirement. The first one that will pop up is the Alliance for Retired Law Enforcement Officers, or ARLEO. ARLEO's mission statement: enhance your future beyond the badge. A law enforcement officer is never fully retired. We at ARLEO understand this to be true because that's who we are, retired law enforcement officers. We will provide a resource for legal protection for those of you who have risked your lives every day to protect others. We offer the legal support you deserve and the ability to monetarily enjoy a healthy and fulfilling life after a LEO puts away their shield. We know who you are, and you will always be there to protect. That sounds great. What does it cost? Yep, that's right. The 20-plus years you've put into law enforcement doesn't matter. You want to be a member of this supposedly amazing organization, you got to open up the wallet. $180 a year will get you membership to ARLEO. But when you look at the benefits page, it immediately directs you to the IUPA, or the International Union of Police Associations. That's right, it's part of a union. Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Unions have their place, but unions are never organized to meet the needs of the retired employee. Unions are about the active and current workers. They care as much about the retired officer as the individual departments do. Actually, less. Although that's not fair. They care exactly $180 worth a year. Still, I was curious about ARLEO, what it offered, how it worked with retired officers, and the benefits a retired officer could expect from the organization. So I reached out to them 12 times. No one, not one single person from the organization, made any attempt to respond to my attempts to contact them for more information. I started with requests for interviews, then just made requests for information, then simply said, "Hello, I need to talk to someone." Nothing. Next on my internet search was the Retired and Disabled Police of America, or RDPOA. After my dissatisfaction with ARLEO, I was hoping that this organization would be better. Well, it surpassed ARLEO in one area: the yearly dues. $200 gets you a $250 death benefit. I'm serious. Their website is so bad it's impossible to figure out what's going on, and of course, when you reach out for information, you get the same response as ARLEO. Nothing. I tried 6 times to make contact with RDPOA, and nothing. Good thing I'm not in need. I mean, seriously, as an organization, you claim to be there to support fellow law enforcement officers who have retired from the job, people who have dedicated a significant portion of their lives to protect their communities, people who have gone to work for over 2 decades and put their ass on the line, and you can't even respond to an email or answer a phone call? Shame on you. Finally, we get to the Fraternal Order of Police. The FOP is the largest law enforcement organization in the U.S. with over 360,000 members. The FOP does offer some services to retired officers, but those are generally based on the specific area you retire in and if they have a lodge dedicated to retired officers. Otherwise, like any other union on the planet, its focus is for the working officers and what they can do to provide for them and support them. I'll give the FOP this: they answer the phone and return emails. So that makes them light years ahead of the other organizations. To put this into perspective, let's look at military veterans. Let's start with the Mandatory Transition Assistance Program. This mandatory program for all military personnel planning on separation from the military covers things like benefits, financial planning, health care, and employment opportunities. It also includes mandatory counseling. For officers and enlisted that are retiring from the military, there are more specific programs that cover pension options, survivor benefits, and how to monetize your skills outside of the military. They also offer counseling to the soldier and their family for the upcoming retirement. All of the above courses start about 18 months prior to retirement. Once the soldier is out of the military, the Veterans Benefits Administration kicks in. While the VA is far from perfect, at least it exists. It doesn't just provide for health care. It also provides for outreach and transition programs, home loans, life insurance, employment tracks, support services for families, and many other services. There are also many veteran-run programs designed to help soldiers make that transition to civilian life, like the Wounded Warrior Project, Warrior Care Network, Disabled American Veterans, Simplify in America's Fund, Gary Sinise Foundation, and many more. And the kicker, every one of those that I reached out to got right back with me within 24 hours. You might want to argue that military service and police service are very different things, that soldiers need that kind of support since the military world and the civilian world are so different. On top of that, they also have to go overseas into hostile environments to protect America. You don't understand. I'm not saying that the military should not have access to all of those services. I fully support those services and encourage more. I recognize the difficult transition soldiers face leaving the military. But take a look at law enforcement. It's paramilitary in structure. The officers work every day in hostile environments. They're held to an extreme level of competence and face traumas every day unlike any other profession. And while a soldier goes to war, they get to come home. Police officers work in the communities they live. They never get a break from it for 20 or 30 years. They need some help. What should we be doing in law enforcement to help our retired officers? First, we should start by advocating and supporting the creation of federal, state, and local transition programs for officers who plan to retire. These programs should be based on the Mandatory Transition Assistance Program offered by the military, and it should be funded through pension and retirement programs along with state and federal grants. We need to start preparing our protectors for life after the job. Second, agencies need to encourage officers to stay connected with the department. Retired ID cards that allow all hours access to the services available at the department, such as gyms and firearms ranges. The officers should have access to department counselors, chaplains, and any other mental health resources available to the departmental members. Maybe even set aside an office space in the department for retirees to come and do work and interact daily with the working officers. There's no reason to lose the institutional knowledge that will walk out that door when an officer retires. Finally, agencies need to build peer support groups for the retirees. These support groups should hold monthly gatherings such as coffee meetings and dinners to encourage the retired officers and make them feel like they're still part of the agency. This should include invitations to all public-facing gatherings such as banquets and award ceremonies. Maybe even have a retired officer as a member of the promotional board or award committee. These 3 simple things could go a long way to helping officers make that transition into civilian life. They gave us decades of their life to keep us safe under the most trying of circumstances. We at least owe them this. And that's the story we have to tell. Thank you for joining. As always, I'm curious what questions you're getting asked. What isn't the news covering? What story needs to be told? Connect with me at bluecanarypodcast@gmail.com.